Good afternoon, Villa fans. It's been a minute. Been a while since I jumped on. Been away in lovely Newquay for a few days, enjoying the lovely beaches out there. Would highly recommend if you haven't been to Newquay before. My favourite beach, Perranporth, I think, followed by Fistral. So there's my little tour guide to Newquay and Cornwall. So yeah, do like and subscribe for any more updates on Cornwall. But yes, jumping in on this one. So I was obviously away for the Palace game, obviously transfer deadline day as well. I did watch the Palace game with a Crystal Palace fan in Newquay in one of the pubs down there, which was less said about that, the best, to be honest with you. So I'd rather just talk about what's going on now. And we really need to, the season starts now for me. Hit the reset button. Hit the reset button. 35 games left of the season now. And, we've got cup competitions, Europa League coming up, and we've just added these three signings to our squad, which was absolutely critical and needed. And off the back of the Palace performance, not just the result, I think our shortcomings really sort of showed up in that game, that we had no width, no natural players that could sort of go past players. And by signing the likes of Sancho and Elliott, they have potential to do that. So I wanted to talk about these sort of signings, talk about the transfer window in general, talk about a certain Emi Martinez and, what he needs to do to really sort of, he needs to give you and I a big hug, and he needs to hug it out with the most of the fans, the players. He needs to build bridges basically again. But I'm not giving up on Emi Martinez. But yeah, let's talk about these three, first of all, in our transfer window business. Obviously, let's just talk a little bit on the outgoings first. I mean, I've been highly critical of Monchi on these podcasts over the last few months and, saying what he's been doing. And on the outgoing side of things, he's done a good job. So I would say well done to Monchi. He's got rid of Coutinho, Dendoncker, who are on massive wages. No kind of resale value for them. He's got rid of a lot of young players as well and got them loan experience. And he's managed to bring in these players literally on the last day. So we've done this last time round as well. And it's a gamble. It is a huge gamble. I think when we knew that we didn't get Champions League football last year, our squad would have to change. And we had to lose a couple of maybe players that we didn't want to, and obviously Jacob Ramsey being the sacrificial lamb in the end, and Emi Martinez doing what he did as well, which I'll come on to. But Jadon Sancho, let's talk a little bit about this man here. So this move here is a 25-year-old winger, predominantly on the left-hand side. We know about Jadon Sancho and what he can do on his day. Borussia Dortmund, he went there as a young player and really excelled. I think he played like 150 games, 50-odd goals, 60-odd assists as well. So he has definitely got ability in his boots. He signed for Man United on a massive wage, was kind of outcasted, didn't get too many opportunities really there. Gone to Chelsea last season. They've paid a £5 million fee not to sign him and send him back. So that probably shows you exactly what they kind of felt about him and maybe the expense of the deal as well. But with Jadon Sancho, he's got 1 year left on his Man United contract. They have an option, apparently, if they want to renew that. But he's on about 350 grand a week, if you believe the reports. So I highly doubt that Man United are going to take up an option to renew the contract. So he now, at 25 years of age, is in a very, very critical crossroads in his career. Because, after this season is done, and he doesn't impress, where is he going to go? United won't take up the option, and he'll end up on very, very low sort of wages. Maybe no big Premier League team will look at him because I think he's had a chance to play in the Premier League for United and Chelsea and not kind of done it consistently. So this is his last big chance, really. It's World Cup year as well, remember. He's 25 years of age. I'm sure that he wants to be part of the squad. What I like about the signing as well is that It creates more of a kind of a British English core to our front line as well. So Sancho, Elliott, Rodgers, and Watkins all being sort of English. It seems like they get on off the pitch as well, especially Harvey Elliott and Morgan Rodgers. Sancho a little bit as well. Apparently, they kind of know each other. So that's a good element to have. And hopefully that will stop the likes of Morgan Rodgers with his kind of moping about Jacob Ramsey leaving the team and all that sort of stuff. And if you compare the signing of Jadon Sancho, who probably is going to come in and play on the left, I would imagine. I think that's going to be his position. That's a direct replacement for Jacob Ramsey. And you would have to say, like, on prime Jacob Ramsey and prime Jadon Sancho, I think Jadon Sancho is definitely a better player than a prime Jadon Sancho, that is, than a prime Jacob Ramsey. So if we can unlock that, and that's the key here for Unai Emery and his coaching staff to do, is unlock Jadon Sancho from Borussia Dortmund days. Get him confident, get him happy on and off the pitch, make him feel special, give him a run of games in the side. He can be this winger that we've been crying out for, that can go past players. I've talked about this many a time, that every team needs players that can go past players. Jadon Sancho can do that. He can play wide, hug the touchline. It might mean a little bit of a shift in terms of the way that we build up. We've predominantly done it on the right-hand side with sort of Matty Cash and Leon Bailey last season, or somebody out on that right-hand side. It might need to shift towards the left, because Sancho plays predominantly from the left. You've got that link up with Ian Martson again, like they did it in the Dortmund days. I think they played together there. So, there could be some chemistry going on there as well. So, for me, Jadon Sancho, because this is like a last chance for him, really, he has to shine. He doesn't have any choice. He needs to make this work. He's seen Marcus Rashford and what the Villa move did for his career, and it sort of reignited it in terms of getting back into the England squad, getting his move to Barcelona. So I think Jadon Sancho sees this very much as an opportunity to do that. And then at the end of it, if all is going well and all parties are happy, this is a deal that could be made permanent. So, it's not as though it's a Marcus Rashford where we've got no way at all of, keeping this player. Yes, he would need to take a huge reduction in his salary and his wages, because I don't think he's ever going to get 300, 350 a week anywhere at the moment. So this is the last year of that sort of earning. But, if all goes well at Villa and he's happy, and at 25 years of age, he needs to be playing regularly now and being, the star man in a team. And he probably will be one of our better players. Him and Rodgers teaming up, that could work so well together if they just click and get it right. We saw Evan Gasson play on the left-hand side against Palace. We were all looking for players like Marlon and Gasson to play wide. For me personally, I don't think Evan Gasson is a left midfielder. I know that he's done a job out there and he had played out there for Nice. I still very much see him as a central striker, or maybe coming in the 10. I'm not sure about him on the wing in terms of kind of the work rate aspect. I mean, there was parts of the game where Munoz for Palace just had acres of space. Nobody was going closer to him. And it should have been Gasson who was sort of tracking him a bit, but he wasn't doing much of that. So unless he learns the Emery way, Jadon Sancho will also need to put a shift in. Unai Emery does not, allow fools to play, doesn't allow lack of work rate. So Jadon Sancho really needs to buck up those ideas in terms of the work rate situation, which I think he'll do. I think he will. I think he'll knuckle down because he realizes this is a last chance. And I think he's seen the likes of Harvey Elliott come in now as well. And, the squad is there. We just needed a creative kind of spark. What was crying out in that Palace game and what really disappointed me time and time again is every time we went forward, we didn't have an idea of what we were doing. We didn't have a creative spark. Daniel Marlon playing too close to Ollie Watkins. Matty Cash playing right back, getting forward and not having a single pass to play out wide. Everything was infield. Everything was easily marked, congested. Jadon Sancho will get wide. Harvey Elliott, talk about him now as well. He's predominantly going to play from the right, which hopefully ends the John McGinn playing out wide experiment, which has not worked at all for in any of the games I've seen him play. John McGinn for me is either going to play as a CDM in the double pivot, or play in a number 10 role where Morgan Rogers kind of plays. But I don't see him playing further up the pitch or on the left or the right-hand side for me. It's just not for John McGinn. That's not his game. That's not where we see the best of him. So that's what I think. But Harvey Elliott, a very smart signing, 22 years of age, lots of European experience. Liverpool fans really sorry to see him go. What I like about this player is that he's always looking for a forward pass, always looking for that, that ball in between the defenders, which Ollie Watkins can get onto, Morgan Rogers perhaps. Not afraid to cut in on his left foot or right foot and have a shot from range. I mentioned this in one of my shorts as well, that I think we've missed a player that is happy to take on shots from long range. And Harvey Elliott will do that. Edge of the box, anywhere near there. He just wants to shoot, get shots off. And that's where the majority of his kind of goals have come from. He's got good energy levels. He will work up and down on that right-hand side. I don't think he's going to be the one who's going to hug the touchline and stay wide on the width. I think he's going to be that inverted kind of on the right-hand side. That's why I think with Jadon Sancho on the left, we might see a little bit of a shift in terms of how we build up in possession and what side of the pitch we might look to penetrate more on. But Harvey Elliott has quality and he can go past players as well. But what I like about him is the creativity. He's got that ball in behind technique. He's got the long shot ability. He can go past players and move the ball. He has game intelligence. And we've got him on a loan deal. There's an obligation to buy him, I think. I've heard a rumor if he makes 10 appearances or starts 10 games, then we can buy him for 35 million. I think Liverpool, they think very highly of him and they want to insert that buyback clause. So that almost tells you this is like a glorified kind of loan deal for a few years, perhaps it could be. But they want to keep tracks on him because they believe he's only 22 years of age. He is going to get better. How is he going to progress playing consistently in the Premier League under Unai Emery? So they still rate him. They're letting him go initially on this loan, and they might let him go on permanent at the end of the season as well. But they'll keep tabs on him. So that just goes to show he could be back at Liverpool in sort of 3 or 4 years' time, perhaps, or something like that. I don't know what the deal details are, but for me, Harvey Elliott is an absolute great signing. And again, the chemistry with him, Morgan Rogers, Jadon Sancho, I can see him getting on well with Ollie Watkins, Matty Cash, just building up he seems to be a good character around off the pitch as well, from what I've seen. I don't know him, but very little of the evidence shows that he just seems to be a good character. Everyone seems to get on well with him. He was player of the tournament in the under-21s just recently for England, and England went on to win that. So he's contributed goals, I think, in the quarterfinal, semi-final as well. So he knows how to score on the big stage. He scored against PSG last season. He scores in Europe. He's got a European pedigree as well. So he's not someone that hasn't played on like Europa or Champions League before. He's done that as well and scored and performed on that. And there's been games where he's come on for Liverpool and changed the game. He's come on and been a game changer for them. So him now looking for regular football, he's leaving his boyhood team. So Liverpool are his boyhood team. This is how, I would say how desperate, but how keen he is now to kick on his career. He doesn't want to just sit on the bench at Anfield. They brought in like Wirtz. They brought in other players that sort of play in his position. And now he realizes at 22 years of age, he needs to kick on. He's just seen his mate Morgan Rogers get the Young Player of the Year award. I'm sure that is playing a factor in him wanting to play regularly now. And I just think it's a great signing for us. Kind of came from nowhere because I think early on in the transfer window, he looked set for a move to like RB Leipzig or somewhere else. But again, the fact that he wants to stay in the Premier League, play in the best league, he wants to impress Thomas Tuchel. I'm sure that he wants to put a marker down and get into the England squad for the World Cup. And he can only do that by playing regularly. Same as Jadon Sancho. Only way that he's going to get back into any sort of England reckoning is by playing regularly. So this is a chance for both of them really to show what they can do. And for me, it's two really good signings. I want to see them both playing straight away. I don't want to see this off the bench, kind of bedding them in slowly. Got an international break now, so let's get some tactics into them. I think both of them have not been called up. I think Harvey Elliott might be in the under-21 squad. I'm not too sure. But if they haven't, then there's a chance here now to really get on the training pitch and work with them and get on the tactics board. Unai Emery loves his sort of tactical debriefs. speak to them about where their positions are, how he sees them playing, where they're going to fit into this lineup. But I'm quite excited by this. And the first 3 games, draw a line under it, hit that reset button there in this corner. Bang, hit that reset button. Let's go again. Forget Palace, forget Brentford, forget Newcastle. No 0 goals in those 3 games. I think with these 2 now in the squad and in the reckoning, I think we are going to add a lot more creativity to our front line. And I think that's going to, result in more goals, more opportunity, more exciting play. So for me, welcome to both of them. And then the last signing of the window was Victor Lindelof. I mean, he was the first signing on transfer deadline day. I was a bit underwhelmed. Free agent after being released by Man United. But then you think about it, he's fourth choice. He's a backup to Ezri Konsa at centre back, and we needed that. It's either Lindelof or we bring back Disasi or something like that. So for me, Victor Lindelof, big Swedish centre back. We've had one of those in the past in Olof Mellberg. If he's 25% as good as Olof Mellberg, then we've got a good signing there. Not sure on wages what he decided to accept, but I think he turned down moves from abroad. I think Serie A were looking at him and Bundesliga and things like that. There was opportunities for him to go to other places, but he wanted to stay in the Premier League, wanted to stay in England. Obviously, he's got family here. The family is settled, so he wants to be. I think he understands his place in the squad as well. That he will be a fourth choice kind of centre back here, and he'll come in for the Carabao Cup games, maybe Europa League, couple of games here and there. He's got that experience. He's won the Europa League twice now, I think it is. He's played in the Champions League. He's not a rubbish player. He can still perform. I just think when he does play, we need to be a bit wary about that high line because from what I know and what I've heard from Man United fans, that he doesn't have very good pace and recovery pace. So anything in behind him, if we're playing that high line, he will get outpaced. But he's good at winning the ball. He's good at playing out from the back. He's comfortable with the ball at feet. He played as a midfield player until his early 20s at Benfica, I think it was, or before that, and then was converted into a centre-back. So he's good with the ball at his feet under pressure, and, he'll fit into our way of sort of wanting to play out from the back, is what I'm trying to say there. And he does like to play a long sort of diagonal as well, so passing range should be better than most kind of centre-backs if he's playing sort of centre midfield, I would imagine. So it'd be an interesting signing to see how he gets on. It's a 2-year deal. I think he's 30 years of age. So, we'll have him into the latter stages of his career. If he can, fill in for Ezri Konsa every now and then, that would be great. I was disappointed that we didn't get a right back. I said about Matty Cash and looking for better alternative options. That was the one position that I was a little bit kind of annoyed about that we didn't get. I don't see Lindelof playing as a right back. I don't want to see Ezri Konsa move to right back to accommodate Lindelof. So nothing like that going on. So it looks like we're stuck with Matty Cash at right back for now. But as I said, if we change the way that we play and we go with, if Matty Cash is playing right back, we need to play, Harvey Elliott can go wide. He can, hug the line off a width. Not always looking for that inside ball like Donyell Marlon was. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of, how we attack the next 35 games in the Premier League. I think we're going to see the link up between Sancho and Matson on the left as our kind of outlet ball as well. As I said, Jadon Sancho, looking forward to seeing him. I'm hoping he can contribute really well this season with goals and assists. Hit the ground running, have a similar impact to what Marcus Rashford did, and that will be absolutely superb. And let's see if we can get him on a permanent deal. But guys, so my thoughts on those guys. And obviously, Emi Martinez was the big news on transfer deadline day. So I want to give my thoughts on Emi Martinez. Now, I'm a big Emi Martinez fan. Since we signed him, he's been absolutely brilliant for us, and everything that he's achieved at Aston Villa. Getting the international recognition, getting the Golden Glove, the best keeper in the world, and all this acknowledgement and praise that he's got is only because he's playing regularly at Aston Villa and what he's done at Aston Villa. And, I know that he's not everyone's cup of tea in terms of character, but I like him. I think he's brilliant. I'm glad we've kept him. I just think that he's got a lot of making up to do. I mean, the pre-match interview with Emery, when he kept saying Marco Bizzo. was really telling, because you could tell that he was really annoyed that Emi Martinez decided that he didn't want to play in that Crystal Palace game. So I think he's got some work to do there in terms of building back those bridges. And, I think he was, when we didn't make Champions League, it was obviously, it was obvious to everyone that we needed to sell a big player to kind of balance the books. And Emi Martinez is up there. I think he's the highest earner at the club at 150k a week, or one of them at least. Him and Boubacar Kamara now, perhaps. So it was, his name was being touted around at the beginning of the transfer window. And you know what? If you went in June or July, early July, I would have been absolutely fine with that, even if it was to Man United, which I think is a backward step anyway. If you went there in June or July, I would have been happy with that. And good luck, Emi. Off you go, mate. Go and play for Man United. But the fact that he left it to the last minute, timing. We did sell him on transfer deadline day and it all went through and he was trying to push it through. Who were we going to get at that point to replace him? Who are we going to scramble around for at the last minute? Or do we just keep Marco Bizzo as the number one keeper? Me personally, no. I think he's a good backup, but Emi Martinez is the number one. So that was what was disappointing about this whole saga, was the timing of it and the way that Emi was kind of apparently pushing for it. I know that we had to maybe sell him and, he was going to be that sacrificial PSR sale, but you don't go into the last day of the window and sort of push for a move to United and say, I'm not in the right headspace to play against Palace the day before and all that sort of stuff. That is what's upset me the most, and what probably upset Emery the most as well, is the timing of it. Now he's got to get his head down. He's got to work his way back into the team. He's got a lot of making up to do with players, the teammates, the fans, the management, the staff, to get that trust back into him. I think now that move hasn't happened. Could it happen again in January? I hope not. What wouldn't surprise me is if we got Martinez to commit to Villa somehow on a new contract with like reduced terms, like we've seen Tyrone Mings do, like we've seen Luka Dean do. But just to make it up a little bit to the fans and say, right, I'm willing to commit here and I'm willing to sign a new contract on like kind of reduced kind of terms, perhaps, just to help the club out a little bit on the PSR side or the SCR side of things. But that's maybe wishful thinking. I think Emi Martinez is a goalkeeper that will play on till his late sort of 30s, maybe into his 40s. I think because he only got into a first team position at Aston Villa, really, and that was only a few years ago, he's missed out on a lot of kind of football before that. So I think he's looking to make up for kind of lost time, and he'll play for a long time. So if he does commit, which could happen, it wouldn't surprise me. But let's see what happens. He's got a lot of making up to do. And as I said, like Jacob Ramsey for me as well, like the sale of that. I mean, the whole PSR side of things. I mean, it's annoying me because you've got to be an accountant now to be a football fan. It's when you're selling your academy graduates for profit to balance the books, there's something wrong there. Absolutely something wrong there. Jacob Ramsey came through the academy from 9 years of age, lived 5 miles from Villa Park, went to school locally. He didn't want to leave the club. He wanted a new contract, wanted to get paid a little bit more, maybe in terms of his value to the team. Obviously, seeing people like Leon Bailey, for example, getting 120 grand a week, and Ramsey's on 75. He's just as integral as someone like Leon Bailey was. So you could see why he wanted that new kind of contract and get those kind of wages and things like that. And then that wasn't coming, and Newcastle obviously came in with a bid, and we needed to sell one of these players to help balance the books, and he was the one that went. But when academy players are being sold for profit, fans want to see academy players coming through into the first team, because then it resonates with the fans. Like, there's a local guy who went to the same school that I go to, or is from the same area that I grew up in. And all of a sudden, they're just being treated like pawns, and you're selling them on. And it's just like, it just does not sit well with me in terms of selling sort of academy graduates. And Villa also, this whole like spend kind of cap thing, whatever's going on, Villa can't spend any money. So we just had a Champions League campaign. We just got to the quarterfinals against PSG. Yeah, I know we spent a lot of money on the Rashford and Asensio deal, in terms of loan fees and maybe wages and that side of things. But there's, you've got how are teams supposed to build and break into the top four if you can't spend? It's just like you're limiting the team's ability to really grow and progress. And then the likes of Chelsea are going out spending a fortune and selling players and selling them for a fortune as well, which is a whole different matter. I mean, I could do a whole separate podcast on that one. But Chelsea, for example, they're bringing in all these players that have just brought in Garnacho now as well, and so many players have come through, and they've sold so many players as well. And how they've got the money for some of those players. I mean, I'll give you an example. Amanda Brozier, whatever his name is, Brozier, 20 million to Burnley. That guy's awful. He really is. I mean, if he's worth 20 million, I'm worth 10. That's crap. And then, they've got, who else was it? Renato Vega, 26 million to Villarreal. How? He's rubbish. And then the most recent one, which I think needs to be looked at and investigated regarding Chelsea, and this is turning into a Chelsea kind of podcast, is that they sold a player 33 days ago to Strasbourg, who are also owned by Todd Bowley, for 9 million. A guy called, I think it's Aisha Samuel Smith, 33 days ago, 9 million to Strasbourg. They just bought him back for an undisclosed fee, and they've just loaned him out to Swansea. What the heck's going on there? Is that some sort of PSR kind of loophole that they needed to sell someone before a tax due date or something? It's just like, what the hell's going on there? That one needs to be looked at, because that is, how can you sell a player for 9 million, buy him back 33 days later and straight away loan him back out? And then also you've got the likes of Ben Chilwell going to Strasbourg, again, a club that's owned by Chelsea. It's like transferring money from your bank account to your Monzo account, is what I've seen. It's just like, how are they getting away with it? It's ridiculous. And then Villa can't spend a penny, and we're picking up Victor Lindelof on a free. That's all we can do. And it's like we're trying to break into that top four. So it doesn't sit well with me. I know Chelsea won the Club World Cup and probably got money for that and all that sort of stuff as well, and there's probably deeper elements to it. But it just really kind of annoys me that we're hampered, that we can't spend any money. Sunderland, another team who've been splashing the cash all summer. Gertrude's just joined them as well. How are they able to spend so much money? I looked into this a little bit, and it's because their wages were so low. They weren't expected to get to the Premier League. They obviously came from the League Two to the Championship. They had still a bulk of those players on low wages. Getting promoted then gave them an opportunity. They sold Jude Bellingham to Dortmund for profit, and it just allowed them to spend loads more money. Whereas the likes of Leeds, for example, spent loads of money in the Championship to get promoted, and therefore their kind of budget was taken up on their promotion push. Whereas Sunderland weren't expected to get promoted and came in via the playoffs. So it's weird. I don't like it. It's just restricting teams like Aston Villa and Newcastle really kind of pushing on. And you've got to sell players that you don't want to sell, like Ramsey, like Isak, and people like that. And it's just like, you might as well give Liverpool the trophy now. They've just signed Alexander Isak, missed out on Gahey in the end, but the squad is looking phenomenal. Just hand them the trophy now and let's all play for second place, or let's all play for fifth place, really, because top four is probably already decided due to the whole PSR side of things. But it's just really annoying. It's just PSR bullshit, really, for me. And that's my little rant on the whole kind of situation there and how it's affecting Villa. It's really making me kind of fall out of love with the football. That you can't, you're not allowed to break into the top four after the season that we've had. When we got into the Champions League, we had to sell up arguably our best player in Douglas Luiz, and then we get a good run in the Champions League, and it's like, well, why can't we use some of that money? We sold a lot of players. A lot of players have left the club in this window. All of those wages have gone. Why can't we use that? It's just like. But anyway, guys, before I rant on about PSR and my thoughts on it and the modern day football, it's not good. But I'm happy with these signings. Hopefully now we can kick on for the next 35 games in the Premier League and go far and deep into domestic cups. We've also got Brentford and the Carabao Cup coming up in a couple of weeks, I think it is, or next week. Everton is the next game. Obviously, Jack Grealish had a Hill Dickinson. That will be interesting. They're looking quite good at the moment in good form. but we need to make sure that we can get Sancho and Elliott on the pitch in that game to add creativity, flair, and spark to our dull, blunted attack as it seems at the moment. Need to get Watkins firing, get him off the mark, get Rodgers off the mark. Need to get the feel-good factor around Villa Park again and around the club again, because at the moment it's a bit flat and you've got this international break to sit on it and think about it. But yeah, Jadon Sancho, for me, if he can do a similar impact to what Marcus Rashford did, then good. Rodgers will be happy that he can continue playing in the 10 position, because obviously the Asensio deal didn't happen as well. And I'm kind of glad of that in the end, because I didn't want Morgan Rodgers to be pushed out wide. And if you're giving me an option of Marco Asensio or Harvey Elliott, I think Elliott gives you versatility rather than Asensio just playing in that one position and then forcing Rodgers to play somewhere else where he'll probably end up moaning. So hopefully now we've got the Morgan Rodgers' buddies on board, and we can look forward to the season and hit that reset button, as I said, and go on and go forth. Anyway, guys, up the Villa. Speak to you all again soon. Bye for now.